What the? Bro, you ain't tripping, bro. There's a grid in the sky, bro. What way, bro? What the?
People are seeing these strange grid lines in the sky. And while some of these lines in a grid-like pattern are clearly chemtrails, others aren't so easily explained away. These sky grids are usually seen in areas of high altitude or in very rural areas. However, they've also appeared in populated areas as well. As it so often goes with inexplicable phenomena, it has been completely ignored by the mainstream media and government. This grid pattern is sometimes seen by those under the influence of psychoactive substances, particularly magic mushrooms, LSD, DMT, and ayahuasca. I don't dismiss these accounts because these substances are able to take people into states of consciousness beyond the typical five-sense level of reality, which is why occultists and shamans use certain plant medicines and potions to experience unseen realms and to gain insight and knowledge. Please note this video is not advocating drug use. There are some drugs in which there is absolutely no insight or knowledge to be gained. These drugs do nothing but open you up to malevolent entities and oftentimes leave your life completely in ruins. According to artist Alex Gray, who's known for creating spiritual and psychedelic paintings, he saw a quote-unquote infinite regress of electric grids emanating from his mind that spanned down to the horizon into space. He saw this grid after taking LSD. This is important because he mentions that the grid is emanating from him, or rather his consciousness, meaning that his consciousness, or rather the collective consciousness of us all, is responsible for keeping this grid in place. Keep this in mind as we will expound on this more later on. It is also relevant to point out that many of the comments on Gray's post also mentioned that they had seen the grid as well, usually either while meditating or on some psychedelic substance. In fact, seeing the sky grid while on psychedelic drugs is an extremely common occurrence, and you won't have to look hard to find these accounts. Nevertheless, most people write these experiences off as nothing more than drug-induced hallucinations, which is understandable since most people don't understand how these substances can allow you to access unseen realms, which are always there, but we usually aren't able to see. But here's the thing. This strange grid in the sky has been seen by people who are completely sober as well, and not under the influence of anything. In fact, on Reddit alone, there are many accounts of people all over the world seeing this grid, most of whom are completely confused as to what they are seeing. And even stranger still, this phenomenon has been caught on video, making its existence undeniable. So, what is this bizarre grid pattern in the sky? While it's out there in the public consciousness, in card games, movies, and video games, it's never actually been discussed. It's the concept of soul traps, or more specifically in this case, the soul net. The soul net, also known as a frequency fence, is an electromagnetic grid around the Earth which fences off the simulated universe from the real universe. And while some details from various researchers or theories will vary, they all have the same common message and theme. A parasitic extraterrestrial race that has been feeding off the negative emotions of humans has set up an electromagnetic net around the simulated universe, or specifically, planet Earth. This frequency fence is designed to stop souls from leaving the Matrix. This electromagnetic energy matrix is also there to prevent humans from accessing higher levels of consciousness and disconnecting us from the real universe. This grid is not to be confused with the natural energetic grid of ley lines of planet Earth. We're going to explore some of these theories, and I'll let you come to your own conclusions. The alien interview theory. In July of 1947, during the Roswell UFO crash, a 40-inch ET was the lone survivor. This ET, known as Errol, began telepathically communicating with one of the nurses on base, Matilda O'Donnell McElroy. McElroy secretly kept a copy of the official interview transcripts of these highly classified communications up until she was in her 80s and about to die, before she revealed them to the world. She also included her own personal notes and original letters regarding the situation. These documents and revelations were released in the 2008 Roswell Alien Interview Revisited. In these transcripts, Arrow telepathically explained that humans have had our memories wiped and have forgotten what we really are, which she describes as ISBs. Arrow communicated the following: "Personally, it is my conviction that all sentient beings are immortal spiritual beings. This includes human beings. For the sake of accuracy and simplicity, I will use a made-up word, ISB. Because the primary nature of an immortal spiritual being is that they live in a timeless state of is, and the only reason for their existence is that they decide to be. No matter how lowly their station in society, every ISB deserves the same respect and treatment that I myself would like to receive from others. Each person on Earth continues to be an ISB, whether they are aware of that fact or not." According to Arrow, Earth has been used as a prison planet for a long time, and ISBs are brainwashed using extreme electronic force in order to maintain Earth's population in a state of perpetual amnesia. When the body dies, the ISB departs from the body. The ISB is then detected by the force screen and captured and ordered by hypnotic command to return to the light, aka the tunnel of light. Arrow describes this force screen, or frequency fence, in the following quote: "A wide area of space is monitored by an electronic force field which controls all of the ISBs in this end of the galaxy, including Earth. The electronic force screen is designed to detect ISBs and prevent them from leaving the area. If any ISB attempts to penetrate the force screen, it captures them in a kind of electronic net. The result is that the captured ISB is subjected to a very severe brainwashing treatment, which erases the memory of the ISB. This process uses a tremendous electrical shock, just like Earth psychiatrists use electric shock therapy to erase the memory and personality of a patient and to make them more cooperative. On Earth, this therapy only uses a few hundred volts of electricity. However, the electrical voltage used against ISBs is on the order of the magnitude of billions of volts. This tremendous shock completely wipes out all of the memory of the ISB. The memory erasure is not just for one life or one body. It wipes out all the accumulated experiences of a nearly infinite past, as well as the identity of the ISB. The shock is intended to make it impossible for the ISB to remember who they are, where they came from, their knowledge or skills, their memory of the past, and the ability to function as a spiritual entity. They are overwhelmed into becoming a mindless robotic non-entity." In 2014, MIT scientists discovered the existence of this force screen, which they referred to as a Star Trek-like force field that surrounds the Earth. They described this barrier as protecting astronauts and satellites from, quote, "dangerous ultra-relativistic electrons." In physics, a particle is called ultra-relativistic when its speed is very close to the speed of light. This is important because the speed of light are the walls to the simulation. The speed of light is not the fastest speed. It is the fastest speed that matter can travel before leaving this frequency range, or rather frequency prison. Once you go beyond the speed of light, you leave the matrix. So now the question is this so-called force field around the Earth really protecting us, or is it actually protecting the Matrix? The research of Peggy Kane. Peggy Kane was a host on public access TV in the 90s. She's also a UFO researcher and former New Ager. She describes this grid as a frequency net around the planet that holds us in.
So, when you talk about spirit people leaving their bodies, being propelled and dumped on their way out, you said they've bumped their heads on the net.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when they try to get out of your body, it's like a Faraday cage. And when Robert Monroe was put into a Faraday cage, he could astral travel. But in the Faraday cage, when he got out of his body, he would hit that, and his astral body could not go through the Faraday cage, which was electrified. And this is what's happened. And what happens is they may project out to a certain point if they're pretty aware, and then they'll hit the barrier.
The channeled information of Barbara Marciniak. While I'm always wary of channeled information in general, as it's impossible to know who the channeler is communicating with, or if they're even channeling at all. However, I found the following information noteworthy. Back in the early 1990s, Barbara Marciniak claimed to have channeled the following information from a collective of extraterrestrials known as the Pleiadians. According to Marciniak, the Pleiadians communicated that something like an electrical fence, frequency fence, was put around the planet, similar to the electrical fences we use here on Earth to keep animals contained. Marciniak wrote that the Pleiadians she channeled stated that this frequency fence was put up by reptilians who had rearranged the DNA of humans to limit our field's frequency band so they can feed off of our negative emotions. This frequency fence around the Earth also made it difficult for frequencies of light and frequencies of information to penetrate. The research of Wes Penray. According to the Wes Penray theory, we are spiritual beings that were manipulated into entering these physical and dense vessels that we call human bodies. This trapped us in the limited frequency band known as the third dimension. Once we were locked into this frequency, we got trapped in a hologram created by an extraterrestrial group, most commonly known as the Anunnaki, but which he refers to as the Alien Invader Force, or AIF for short. This hologram consists of everything we can perceive with our five senses and is a low-resolution copy of the spiritual universe, aka the real universe. This holographic copy of the real universe is what we perceive as physical, but is actually the simulated universe or matrix system. And while this simulated universe is extremely convincing to us since we are trapped in a limited frequency band, all it is a virtual reality, or a software program. The real universe is a universe that we cannot experience while living in this holographic copy. Penray states that the only hint of the real universe's existence is what we call dark energy and dark matter, which together consist of about 96% of the universe. The other 4% is a hologram in which we are currently trapped in. The purpose of this simulated universe/hologram is to keep us enslaved and feed in the AIF. Saturn, and in my opinion the Moon as well, is a key to keeping the hologram in place. Saturn transmits distorted sound frequencies, which through advanced technology is how the frequency prison and grid around the planet has been able to exist. These frequencies can be heard on NASA videos. However, because some humans have been raising our consciousness to a level where we partly vibrate outside the limited frequency band we call the third dimension, there are now holes in this frequency fence. Penray states that the grid is no longer a fully intact electromagnetic field because of this, but rather resembles Swiss cheese. These holes in the grid act like portals which take us directly out of the matrix and into the real universe, escaping through the holes in the net. In order to escape through these holes in the grid, we need to first ignore any spirit guides or entities that approach us upon bodily death. Instead, we need to realize that we now have 360-degree vision and look directly upwards where we will see the grid. The grid may look solid or fuzzy depending on our level of clarity outside the body. However, this is not important. While looking up at the grid, look for any holes in it, which Penray says should be apparent almost instantly. Pick one of these holes and concentrate fully on it. Fully concentrate while having the intention of going through it and out into the real universe. This is where focusing is of utmost importance, as you must not get distracted by any fake spirit guides or holographic projections of deceased loved ones who are there to lure us into the false light tunnel. They will try to distract you, which is why daily meditation and looking inward is important. According to Penray, once on the other side of the grid, you will see the universe the way it really looks like. You will probably see something that looks similar to what he describes as a luminous spider's web, where the web consists of highways and trade routes between star systems and galaxies. What we call dark space will now be lit up and occupied. Once in the real universe, you can go wherever you choose, and you can call upon your human soul group, which Penray states is located in Orion. So now the obvious question is, if the AIF is aware of these holes, and they must be, why aren't these holes actively being repaired? Penray answers this by saying that the AIF didn't anticipate humans discovering what these holes in the grid actually were, and where they lead to. And even if they are repairing the holes in the grid, as more humans are waking up and the level of our collective consciousness rises, these holes will remain intact, or new holes will form. In addition, they know that people are going to do what's most familiar to them, and that is following a fake spirit guide or deceased loved one into the tunnel of light and getting recycled again. He compares this to a bird that has been caged all its life, but will stay in the cage, even when the door of the cage has now been opened. At this point, the evidence of the frequency fence is undeniable. Many people have not only seen it, but there is also video evidence of it. And while these theories vary on how we got here, the core message remains consistent. Earth is a prison planet, and this prison is held together by certain frequencies. There is a reason why they want us to continually generate negative emotions, because those are the frequencies that are holding this grid in place and keep us imprisoned and away from the real universe. Just like Alex Gray realized that this grid was emanating from him first before it manifested upon the horizon, we must also realize that it starts with us. Meaning, while they can transmit these dissonant frequencies from Saturn to keep the hologram in place and trap us in a limited frequency band, ultimately we are the ones responsible for holding it in place with our collective consciousness and group subconscious. We must all continue to awaken and elevate our collective consciousness so we no longer vibrate at the frequency that is holding us prisoners. And that starts with you. Meditate often and do what you know to be right, regardless of consequences. Embrace love, joy, peace, and all the frequencies that will break down this frequency prison, because ultimately that's all it is.